her up on the big screen, and I thought, I gotta get her on stage at Voice Box. So please welcome Nancy Wright Gelband.
Hi. Hi. Oh gosh, this is kind of fun. All right. Well, it's really nice to be here. Hello, everybody. I've had some changes in my life, and I'd like to share them tonight. So, the first major change in my life came when my father said, Nancy, come into the living room in 1968. I was 14 years old, and he put his hands on my shoulder and looked me directly in the eye and said, your brother Scott has been killed in Vietnam. And sometimes change comes without warning, and the effects can last a lifetime. But I've never met a change that didn't bring gifts eventually. And after 55 years of acclimating to life and holidays without him, came a better thought, one that makes so much sense to me. Great loss means great love. And the greater the loss, the greater the love. There's a lesson in that. What about Scott that truly mattered is gone? Simply loving him somehow makes him close. My life changed for nearly the entire decade in the 90s when, without a known cause, I became anxious and depressed to the point where I could barely leave the house, let alone walk outside or enter a store alone. My world got small. Yet even near the end of the 90s, I was still painting murals on walls in people's very large and beautiful homes. I really don't know how I was able to complete some of those jobs, and to this day I can remember the panic I would feel on the way to them. My life was substantially off the charts when I finally began to reach for help. And yes, I found tools, but I had pretty well convinced myself that that my case was just one that could not be cracked. And that was a horrible feeling, that I had to feel so separated from everything. And yes, I actually asked myself, how could someone, a mother no less, who couldn't successfully walk into a grocery by herself to buy food for her family without panicking and at times even having to abandon her shopping cart to exit the store, be helped? But something within me encouraged me to keep going in the form of I'm sorry. Somehow I lose my place in this, I can barely see here. In the form of body, so I will find it eventually. I wrote this, so I will find it. I wrote it. Nancy, you wrote this. So actually, you know the words, too. No, so something told me to keep going, and so I kept searching for things that would help, and I did find tools in the form of mind-body services and such, and I was especially fortunate to find in my quest, and there are these people sitting right here, for relief, some wise and like-minded people who have grown into a group of my closest and dearest friends, forming a community of extraordinarily supportive and beautiful friendships. Yeah. And I never expected it would be words in a book, however, that would crack my case. And to make matters worse, a book that I had been avoiding since my brother accidentally left it behind from a visit 7 years early. And I'm not sure whether it was weakness or wisdom that had me finally pick it up. But I did pick it up, and I liked it. And that book was A Course in Miracles. It actually cracked my case. The way I read it and received the words in that book allowed me to see the magnitude of who I really am and the power I have to make changes in my thinking so that I can appreciate and live the power of love that is me. It changed my life. Yeah. In 2005, I'm thinking life is getting to be pretty good again. Grocery shopping all by myself again. Yay. I'm noticing I'm tripping down the hall at work and blaming it on my shoes. My posture is stooped. My handwriting is small and scratchy. I'm left-handed and it already sucked. Every time I bent over to tie my shoe, I would need to catch my balance. It took some time, actually, to consider that something might be wrong. I had suspected it, and my new neurologist confirmed that it was Parkinson's. I was 52. At restaurants, as I shuffled past tables en route to the restroom, I'd think people might be assuming I'd been drinking too much. I didn't even drink alcohol back then. The greater changes over these past nearly 18 years have been mostly good ones. For one, learning not to care what people think. For better, not to make assumptions about what people think. I've learned I'm not my body. I'm not imprisoned by the things that happen to my body. I'm always fully intact. The fact that my body is weak doesn't mean I am. I find it amazing what the outer body's weakenings have taught me about my inner strength. By 2010, I had learned much about me spiritually. My heart was more active and fuller than ever, and I was painting up a storm in my studio every day. I felt empowered. But at the same time, it became very clear that happiness was another matter, and a much more strategic matter than ever before. Another change at hand. This one was the most difficult to find words for, and the one that I grew the most from. I will reduce this to simplest terms for efficiency tonight. It became clear that year that for some time my marriage had not been a source for happiness, and that my 34-year marriage would end. And so I've ordered for me and my inner happiness, whatever that meant, and I had no idea of anything other than where and what it wasn't. It sounds shallow, perhaps. Having to decide whether to make this change has taught me the value of my own life. I made a change, choosing happiness without considering a single what if. My 3 sons were grown and living elsewhere, and this would be a surprise to them. I did not have a plan. This change was my listening response to an urging within to make one. The growth here was huge. To realize I had the freedom to make such an important choice in my life was empowering, to say the least. I learned that I could trust, though still only evidenced by an inkling of an inner voice, what I knew to be true. Though we ended our relationship in marriage, we began a better and more authentic relationship and friendship. And though we live apart, our family grew closer than ever. Oops, sorry, I just fell off the stool. I can't believe it, but this will be my 70th year. That would be just perfect, wouldn't it? I just might do that. If I'm not satisfied with this talk at the end, I will fall off the stool. I can't believe it, but I'll think about that. But this will be my 70th year. Just a number, but it's a high one. My brother likes to say, Nancy, we're on deck. The changes I have made in combination have resulted in some kind of metamorphosis just in time for my 70th year here. My intention for this year is to be still and listen. What I've learned about change is that I haven't changed, but my mind has. Change is not failure. Change is life in motion. Change is risky, and change is a ride. And then I want to give you something. It's my favorite arrangement of words in the world. And it's called Our Deepest Fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us, and it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our fears, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson, and I'm not going to fall, and I thank you.